Call a meeting to order. It's Thursday, September 7th, 2023 at 5 p.m. We're in the council chambers at City Hall. With that, we'll go around the room, introduce ourselves.
I'm Dennis Pollock, member of the committee.
Dean Veneman, Alderperson, District 2.
Ryan Austin, committee member, District 1.
Paul Vollert, Public Works Superintendent.
Nick Dooms, Assistant City Engineer.
Okay, with that, we'll get the engineering and street department report, monthly reports. Start with the engineering report, I guess. Nick?
So on the engineering side of things, over the last month, we've been pretty busy with permitting. We've had double the permits, with our excavating permits being most of them over the last month, double from what we had last month. So that's been taking a considerable amount of our time, a couple stormwater permits and concrete inspections as well. Our maintenance project, so our sidewalk and curb and gutter maintenance project, we just completed construction on that. So most of the sidewalk that was either damaged or needed to be replaced, we've replaced that from 8th to 16th and Daly to Grant as being our bounds in that area. So that work is complete. Our sewer lining project is just about to get underway. We are anticipating our contractor in situ form to be in town next week to start cleaning and televising sewer. So the project we are doing this year is on 17th Avenue. It goes from the roundabout to Russell Street. So they'll come in and do some preliminary work, like I said, next week. And then they will come back in about a month to do the actual lining work. And that'll probably take them 2 weeks. So we're looking by the end of October to have that work complete. Our survey work, we've got a little bit of survey work left to complete this fall. So Wiley Street, pending approval of the preliminary resolution for that, which we'll talk about later, we're looking to start survey on Wiley Street as soon as next week if ready to do so. So we'd have another 2 blocks of work with that. And then we'd also like to get our East Jackson Street project surveyed. So that would be from the Jackson Street Bridge to East Grand Avenue. So that's a pretty sizable project as well. But hoping to get both those done before the snow flies. And then our design efforts, we're anticipating will probably increase here over the next month or two, being that construction will be slowing down a little bit going into the fall. So we're hoping to make some hay with that. And then lastly, our 1 Mile Creek project, just an update on that. So we are hoping to be done with our pre-application process with the DNR with that. So that's our dredging project in 1 Mile Creek. We think that in the next week we'll be able to wrap that up with the DNR, and then once that happens, then we can go into the actual application process with the DNR. And that is, from what the DNR has told us, not going to be as lengthy of a project, or permitting process, I should say. So we're hoping to have all of that work complete and permitted by later this fall. So we wouldn't be holding up any construction or anything, as we're hoping to do construction this winter. So that's all I've got for engineering.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or anything by anybody? With that, street department report, Paul?
All right, thank you. So just a few highlights of the attached report. Garbage and recycling seem to be running about 10% higher than 2022. So we'll keep an eye on that. Construction end of things, we have completed all the underground work over on Oak Street. The concrete work was just finished today, so that'll allow us to get in there and backfill the curb. And then once we get the curb backfilled, we will start doing the finish grading. It's currently paved and open from 8th Street to just shy of 12th Street. So things happened the way that we were hoping to get it done, open just before the school started or whatever, so that we were successful with that round. And then we also obviously have the 16th Street intersection is open and paved as well, and people are traveling up and down that like normal. So like I say, we're hoping maybe in the next 2 weeks to get the contractor in there to get the surface on the remainder of the project. Obviously, weather and their schedule dependent and things like that, so that's done. The construction crew then moved from Oak Street to 9th Avenue over here on the west side. We had a 2-block section that was carried over from last year from High Street to Fremont. We have completed all the underground on that project, and I believe it was Wednesday of this week, the curb and gutter was also poured on that. So we started today to backfill the curb to get ready for the concrete flat work, and I believe they were starting on that this afternoon and trying to get that work completed by the middle of next week. So then once we're done with the restoration on Oak Street, we'd slide over to 9th Avenue to get that done and also get that ready to pave hopefully here by the end of the month of September. Another project that was kind of out there looming yet was the flood mitigation project down on 2nd Avenue in Lions Park. Today we completed the paving of the bike trail and tying it in. And then we also paved, as part of our maintenance activities, the trail from that project all the way to the north to the Expressway Bridge to possibly tie into a future project for next year there. But everything is now completed on that project as well, so that's done. Our construction crew, once we completed 9th Avenue, moved to Shorewood Terrace. We're on just completing the second week of construction up there, and we're just, close to 2/3 completed on that project. We have a good chunk of the sanitary installed, the water, and then the storm sewer, and then getting some of the area subgraded so that we can get road base in there and things like that. So attached is the different footages of the sanitary sewer and water main and stuff like that that's been installed. Our street maintenance, we obviously have done a monthly brush pickup for the month of August. We had to do some track maintenance on the East Side Rail, out in East Side Industrial Park, I'm sorry. Some of that rail was expanding, so we had to have a contractor come in to reduce some of those joints and things like that, so that the customers out there could continue to get deliveries. We had a sanitary service failure over on 8th and Baker, just north of the intersection on 8th Street, just north of Baker Street. We completed that for that property owner so that we could restore service to them. There's some other work that's going to happen on private property in the future, but we took care of our portion while we could. Also, I believe it was requested last fall by former alderperson Evenson to do some sidewalk and curb and gutter maintenance up off of 13th Street north of Baker. That was requested. There was some pretty big trip hazards up there requested by the property owner. That work was also completed here in the last month. Also, the month of August is our chip sealing month, and so that was completed there that first week of August, and I believe the area has been swept twice now. Here in the next week or two, we'll get some pavement marking down on 32nd Street and at the railroad crossings and things like that to complete all of the maintenance work up in that area. We also had Kafka Construction come in to assist us at the West Side West Side compost site in grinding our brush pile, which requires a little bit of work from us, but not a huge amount. We just kind of try to keep the pile close to them and people out of where they're working so that they can continue to go. The 2 employees down at the sign shop that started in July have been busy painting some of our long line, on majority of our streets. We're probably 75 to 85% completed. We did have some issue with some of our paint from the vendor and just got some stuff restocked from them here on Tuesday of this week. So we're trying to do some of the busier roads at night now this week and next, so less traffic and things like that. So things are moving along well there. Obviously, we also had some sign work that we had to do along those construction projects to get the school zones put back up and things like that. So that is going along well. So as well as doing the long line, we were concentrating around the schools to get all the crosswalks and things like that completed. So I believe that is all completed as well. In our shop, it's the off-season of snow season, but we're working on that type of equipment to make sure that that's ready here in 3 months. We also had to replace a radiator on our snow blower. It actually will suck in the chips of the ice and was damaging the fins on the cooling fins on that, which was causing a hydraulic leak. So we had to take that out and get sent someplace to get worked on, and now have had that back and got it put away, so that's good to go. We replaced a hydraulic pump on our oldest garbage truck, and also replaced a lift cylinder on one of our older tandem axle trucks, as well as continuing to do our general maintenance for both ourselves and police and fire. So, and that's all that I have for you.
All right, any questions or anything by anybody? Dennis?
I don't have any questions, but Paul, I want to just congratulate you and your crew for getting Oak Street open, up to 12th Street anyway with, with the schools and that. You had mentioned it, but thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, thanks for the reports. Item number 3, review and consider an ordinance adding parking on the north side of Baker Street between 5th Street North and 8th Street North. Who wants to?
Yeah, I can cover that. So yes, this is an older item. This is more of a procedural thing than anything else. So obviously this was approved about a year ago for parking on Baker Street from 5th to 7th. But after speaking with our city attorney, we realized that there should have been the revised ordinance should have been included in the city council's packet, and that did not happen. So it's just a procedural thing more than anything else. We just want to make everything official and legal. So we're going to bring it through Public Works and eventually council, but the same item that we approved last year, just with the revised ordinance actually included in both the packets. So we're just bringing this back for committee approval at this point.
Okay, yeah, Ryan?
To clarify, this is for both north and south, correct? Parking on north and south?
Both sides, correct. Yep.
Parking on both sides? Okay. I was trying to, both sides, yeah, okay. Keep reading it over and I read it different each time, I think, so. All right. And we can go to item number 4, I guess.
Yeah, we do officially need, sorry if I didn't explain it clearly enough, we do still need Public Works approval, and then eventually it'll go to council and get approval at that point.
I'd make a motion to approve the draft ordinance changes.
I guess without a second, or more, dies for lack of a second. I guess where does that leave us then?
I'm sorry, Dennis, did you second that?
No.
You did not, okay. Well, without a second, I guess we can't really move forward, so.
Okay. We do have a second to the motion. Further discussion by anybody, I guess? Is there discussion by anybody? Questions or anything? Okay. So we do have a motion on the floor. Committee will vote then. All in favor, respond by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And no. 2-1. Thank you. Review, item, let's see, 4, review and consider ordinance changes for the restricted parking on Prospect Street and 11th Street North at Emmanuel Lutheran School. Okay, Paul?
So with the construction activities that happened in June, the school changed their operations, and it just so happened that we didn't think that there was anything in the ordinance that had a closure for school bus loading on Prospect. And so when we went through and reviewed it, because we had set it up that way temporarily, when we had closed Oak Street down in June. So then going through and reviewing it, the school has requested to just make these changes as shown in the ordinance in red. So on 11th Street, instead of it being 117 feet from Oak, they're requesting to go to 185, because in front of the school, it's no longer their bus loading. That's where they're having the parents do a drive-through drop-off. And the bus loading is happening on Prospect Street itself between 11th and then south 106 or west 160 feet. So they're just requesting to make these changes as well as the times that are shown. The sign that is on the bottom of the picture on, I believe, the first page of the handout, currently it's 7:30 to 4:30, and they're requesting it to be from 7 to 4 o'clock.
All right. Any comments, questions by anybody? Or I'll entertain a motion on what you would like to do. I'll move to, grant the ordinance changes for the restricted parking on Prospect Street and 11th Street North at Emmanuel Lutheran School, as Paul has just described and what's in our packet here, so. A motion, a second. Is there any discussion now or anything, questions by anybody? Hearing none, committee will vote. All in favor, respond by aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, the ayes have it. Item 5 is review and consider approving the state municipal agreement for carbon reduction program project for Wisconsin Rapids Rail Crossing Optimization, project number 6999-11-86. Okay,
So, the DOT has granted the city, this grant, to cover costs with the, predictive mobility and signing for our rail project. So the next step is the state and municipal agreement. The state would cover 80% of the cost, or up to $438,000 approximately, with the city covering the rest of the cost, which is projected to be approximately $110,000. But the cost of the proposed work, we did propose that in next year's budget to cover these costs. But this again would be for Link Things and their proprietary solution with this predictive mobility and all the signing that goes along with it. But their proposed timeline would be about 3 to 4 months once they start. But the action that we're requesting is for approval of the state municipal agreement that would have the state covering 80% of the proposed costs.
All right, anybody questions or anything, comments on it or anything? Or what would we like to do?
I'll move to approve the state municipal agreement for the rail crossing optimization project.
I'll second that. Any further discussion by anybody or anything? Hearing none, committee will vote. All those in favor respond by aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, the ayes have it. Item 6, discuss compost site operations and expectations. Paul, is that,
Sorry, I just got to get caught up here.
that's all right.
So I put this referral in, kind of based off of some of the questions and things like that that we've gotten over through this, or gotten through the summer months here. We tried a couple different things here this spring, fall, early winter, which put us backwards a little bit on our compost. And then obviously through the summer months, without the lack of rain, the compost that we generated this spring did not compost out as quickly because of the lack of moisture. As I say in the referral, we've been getting phone calls or requests from contractors, vendors over the last few years, and it's getting more prevalent about purchasing compost from us that has not been screened yet, which obviously number one, some of them are looking at purchasing from us right after we close the sites in November. And with that, there would be a cost savings to the city because, you know, we wouldn't have to move the piles, we wouldn't have to turn them through the winter months to get them to compost down for the material to be ready to screen. And so, you know, I guess this kind of, I think it was some of the aldermen last year, you know, we were spending time thinking about where can we come up with cost savings or whatever. And so the light bulb kind of came on and said, here's a possibility, you know, but obviously we got a lot of phone calls because we didn't have compost ready for residents this spring. And so, you know, what is the expectation from the council, from the committee as to, you know, I've also attached section 14 of, or section 7, paragraph 14 of the ordinance that says, you know, the city may provide compost to the residents. It doesn't say we will, but obviously, if we go and sell, so if we go and sell unscreened compost to contractors or individual or companies, you know, there has the possibility of being or compost not available, you know. And so in our in my referral, I made, you know, 3 suggestions that we could possibly do. We could continue to operate our compost sites, you know, with the intentions of providing screening all of our compost and selling screened compost, and having residents or patrons of the compost sites take it from those piles for free. You know, we could send out a request for proposal to area businesses, advertise it to see if there truly is desire to purchase, you know, the unscreened compost, and see what those requests would generate, you know, as far as if there would be a cost savings to us as an organization, or would we generate some revenue, or we could do kind of both a hybrid version where we retain, you know, 20% or 30% of our compost to turn into compost that's to be saleable and free to the free to the patrons of the compost site, and then, you know, continue to send out the RFP, but not for the whole amount. You know, like I say, just throwing that out there as a, you know, there was a challenge to try to come up with cost savings, and this is possibly one. You know, the hardest part is that I think in talking with the mayor and the finance director, we may do like a 5-year RFP to say, you know, to see if people would be willing to give us a 5-year price, because otherwise I still have to budget the same way that we always have, because, you know, there may not be, if I send out an RFP right now, which we're starting, or finishing our budget cycle, there may not be anybody interested this year, you know, so then I would still have to do it the way that we've always done it, so.
Anybody have any comments or questions? How much, okay, Ryan, go ahead first.
Just about usage of compost, I mean, how much compost material does the city typically generate? And are we seeing that material used up by residents, or is there an amount that continues to be unused?
So our, you know, obviously it's, depending upon how the summer is, right? You know, so like this year, because of the lack of rain and things like that, we're probably gonna be generating less than our average for compost. You know, but our typical range is anywhere from 10 to 18,000 yards of compost that we would be generating. You know, in years past, we have had, you know, for years, there's been surplus piles of compost, you know, because there just hasn't been a use of it, so we would blend it with topsoil and things like that. Probably in the last 8 to 10 years, the Wisconsin DNR has made requirements on all these stormwater plans for new development that they have to have engineered soil in the bases of the retention basins, so that filters the runoff from the parking lots before the water goes back into the groundwater. So there's been increased, you know, requests from people that have been doing development in Wisconsin Rapids as far as general contractors go to purchase screen stuff from us. You know, it's not even when we do sell it, it's kind of a break-even point, because it's all you can do. You know, you can raise your price and then you'll have it coming out of your ears again. You know, but I would say it would be somewhat of a educated guess that 50% of it goes away, that the city doesn't get charged or doesn't charge any of it, because it's the compost users that are taking it. So that whether that be residents of the city or non-residents that are taking from that pile. You know, so like this year, I'm sorry, I'm not prepared for that, but I can be for the council meeting to see. I believe I could figure out how much we've sold, you know, in last year and then this year. This year is obviously down because we didn't have stuff ready, but then as soon as we had 400 or 500 yards available, it was gone within 2 weeks, you know, because people were behind on their potted plants and things like that, you know. You know, right now here, just since Tuesday, we have put up a 150-yard pile here in 2 days, you know, and I have not had the chance to go out there to see how much of that has gone in a matter of 2 days, but it seems like as soon as it's available, there's people out there shoveling on it and stuff like that, so.
And the unscreened material, if we were to go that route and keep some unscreened, would that be sold at the same price, or?
So the unscreened would know, you know, that's all that is stuff that it would be my recommendation that when I send out the RFP, that I would say that they'd have to get that gone by the first of the year and/or, you know, prior to the 2024 compost season starting. So we would still have some cost into that material, because we have to go out there on a daily basis to push up the compost sites. Depending upon how we did it, if the contractor was to come in there in the off season, you know, we could allow them to load themselves, versus us having to load it. So we really, you know, we'd still have some cost in our compost operations, but I would say that they would be anywhere from 50 to 30% less than what, you know, we're currently budgeting. But, so, no, if we were to sell it, you know, our screener is very expensive to operate. And so, to screen compost with a loader and an operator, I believe is around $250 an hour, you know, and the loader itself is like, I believe it's around $90 an hour. So the majority of it is in the screen, so that's where the majority of the cost comes from, is simply making that finished product.
So I guess my question was, would we be charging the same price per yard for the unscreened material?
No.
Okay.
I don't think we would, I honestly.
If we were to sell the contractors or,
Yeah, I don't know where that would come up at, you know, I mean, I would be guessing to see what they would give us
Okay.
for it. And monthly, I meet with, area counterparts from central Wisconsin. Like, I believe the city of Wausau, when they do their fall pickup, they have either a general contractor or a farmer comes in with a square baler, and he just doesn't charge them, I believe, to square bale it. Then he takes those bales of the leaves. Otherwise, their compost sites are at local contractors. They have agreements worked with them, so they really don't have anything else. But there's really, I feel like Marshfield had said that they just had somebody come in and they took it. They tried to get $1 a yard for it, and the guy's like, no, we're not interested, and they had it coming out of their ears type thing, you know, so.
so really it's just a scenario where we wouldn't have to touch the material and there's cost savings to that by, you know, saving on our operator and our equipment and whatnot, right?
Correct.
Okay,
And,
gotcha.
but we still also may get something from them, you know, I mean, you may end up getting $1, I don't know, that's why, to me, that's why I would like to explore that, you know, like right now, if we get somebody requesting unscreened compost, we typically sell it for like $2 a yard, which covers our time to load it, really, is what it comes up with. So that's where I would like to explore that, to see, you know, is it a possibility, number one, for cost savings, and could we possibly generate something for it as well?
So you'd be leaning more towards your third option that you've presented here then? Is that safe to say?
Yeah, that would be acceptable to me.
Okay.
Well, I think it's worth investigating to see what we can come up with. What kind of motion would we need for that?
I would say to make a motion to retain 30% of the unscreened compost to be screened and made available for compost site users, and send out a request for proposals to see if there's interest in purchasing of the unscreened compost.
That sounds good to me.
That's pretty much, would you say that's number 3?
Yep. Dennis, oh, okay. Who made the motion? I can.
Sounded like Tom then, yeah.
Okay. A motion is second to basically go with item 3 as in the recommendations here. If there's no further questions, committee, we can vote. All in favor, respond by aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, the ayes have it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 7, consider a preliminary resolution for public work and improvements on Wiley Street between 10th Street North and 12th Street North, proposed for construction in 2024.
So on Wiley Street, we are asking for approval for a preliminary resolution, essentially to extend Wiley Street to 12th Street. So our project originally went from 8th Street to 10th Street, and the proposal is to extend it an additional 2 blocks to the east to 12th Street, making it a 4-block project instead of a 2-block project. So I did actually, I noticed we had an error in our preliminary resolution that was in the Public Works packet. I do have copies of that with me, and I can hand that out if there's interest. We'll make sure it's in the council's packet, just to make sure everything's taken care of with that. But essentially, all it was an issue with the lot numbers that were listed on the preliminary resolution. So, other than that, everything stayed the same with what everyone has in their public works packets. With that being said, the 2-block extension from 10th Street to 12th Street was, we did add it into our latest version of our capital improvement plan, and we have added it or proposed the extra costs into our budget as well. But the reason for it being, the reason for all of this being that it's kind of come to our attention that some of the sanitary sewer grades on the project on Wiley Street are very flat, and we're having issues with solids settling out in the main. And we found that at 12th Street, we can tie into the sanitary sewer there and lower our sanitary sewer along all 4 blocks and be able to put more pitch on it. So that was part of it. The water main is also in poor condition for those additional 2 blocks, and the street condition is also in need of replacement as well. So it just seemed like a logical addition to add those 2 blocks from 10th to 12th. But yes, we did add that money into the budget, or we didn't add it, we proposed it to be in the budget. And then we are just asking for the committee to approve the revised preliminary resolution, and this would allow the city to proceed with our with a survey and design and eventually construction of the additional 2 blocks from 10th Street to 12th Street along Wiley.
Thank you for the explanation. I think we've talked about it before when this came up, but thank you again, so.
But we still would need, I don't know if it actually went through with a preliminary resolution. I think we would need to approve that at this meeting.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the preliminary resolution for public improvements on Wiley Street between 10th Street North and 12th Street North.
We have a motion and a second to approve the preliminary resolution. If there's no comments or questions by anybody, committee, we can vote. All in favor, respond by aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, the ayes have it. Thank you. Item number 8, review eligible projects for the Wisconsin DOT's STP-U applications.
So our STP urban program that the city participates in with the state, that runs on a 2-year cycle, and we are up for another list of projects to provide as potential STP urban projects. So that is, applications are due on October 27th. So we just wanted to get this in front of the committee. In 2021, for that application period, 2 years ago, we applied for 3 projects, which were 8th Street from the Expressway to Baker, Baker Street from 8th Street to 18th Street, and East Jackson Street from the bridge to East Grand Avenue. So we did not get any of those projects approved in the last cycle. We are now planning to do the East Jackson Street project from the bridge to East Grand Avenue as one of our city projects. So in our capital improvement plan that we would design and construct that. So pulling that out, we're left with the other 2 projects. We're still ranking them number 1 and number 2 as 8th Street from Expressway to Baker Street and Baker Street from 8th Street to 18th Street. And so once we submit that to the DOT, the applications are submitted, and obviously we rank them according to our priority. However, the municipalities do get together and prioritize the projects, and so that's still up in the air on what actually does get approved. But we are not requesting any action to take place, but we're just asking for consideration of our rankings, as well as any other potential projects that the committee may have interest in.
Questions of anybody? So if I understood that, we don't have to do anything then, Paul, Nick, is that what you're saying?
Correct. Yep.
Okay, if there's no questions or comment.
Just,
Brian?
just one question, and maybe you explained it, but was there any explanation as to why 2 years ago none of the projects that we listed were supported?
Yeah, I think I've not been in any of those meetings, but the municipalities, I believe it is, are the ones that hash it out as far as they have their list of all the municipalities, and then somehow come up with, you know, the actual priorities. So we have our individual priorities for each city, but then as a group, they get together and decide, okay, these are the ones we're going to do, and these are the ones we'll push off for later. So for whatever reason, that was not chosen in the last cycle.
Is there a amount of money that's in this or whatever? Okay. Paul?
Tom, I'm not 100% positive, but I believe what happens is the county, as well as all of the municipalities within the county get together to come through and prioritize these projects. And then again, like you said, there's the funding source through the state, and when those dollars run out, you know, the state is the one that then goes through and says, oh, this is a higher priority, you know, in Marathon County versus Wood County type thing, I believe is how it happens. Not 100% positive. Joe would be the better person to comment on that, but I'm pretty confident on the fact that the municipalities within the county get together and say, you know, the City of Rapids project is, you know, third on the list or 2 on the list or whatever, and then they submit it to the state based off of that.
Okay. And I guess if there's no other questions and we don't have to do anything, we can move on to item number 9. Review and consider amendment number 3 to MSA's service contract for the signal infrastructure upgrades for intersections along West Riverview Expressway at Chase Street, West Grand Avenue, and High Street.
So MSA submitted amendment number 3 to cover additional costs with our signal upgrade project along the expressway. I'll quickly go through a little bit of the background information, but so originally the city did apply for the DOT's grant for the signal upgrades, and that was approved, but that was approved for Chase and Grand and High Street along the expressway. The original bid efforts did not produce any bidders, so we did a second round, and those bids all came in much higher than what we had budgeted for it. So we got permission from the DOT to change the scope of the project to just include the Grand Avenue signals. And we went for a third round of bidding, and that's when we got an approved bid. So that's kind of how we got to where we are today. But with all those things being said, MSA is asking for additional costs with all the changes that we've had up to this point. So the first being that originally the bidding documents, the plans all include the 3 intersections. What they need to do is they did the work to put together the Grand Avenue plans and specs and bidding documents. Now they need to put together the Chase Street and High Street designs into one set of plans, one set of specs, and one set of bidding documents. So that's part of the cost. They also have their construction services for Chase Street and High Street included with this. An additional item is the inclusion of the preemption testing and reporting. That is a new requirement, apparently, that needs to take place as well. So they have costs included in for a sub-consultant, Mead and Hunt, which would be working underneath MSA, to do this preemption testing and reporting that is required. So there's an additional cost in there for that as well. The third major item is the modification to the construction services. So like I said before, this would include construction of the Chase Street and High Street project when that happens next year, but it would also include the West Grand portion that is slated to happen this fall. It would include that as well, and they're asking for additional costs that they're going to incur because of the fact that when they quoted their price to us originally, it was figured for the Jackson Street project being under construction. So they would already have inspectors on site for that they could, just check in with construction. They're literally working down the block, that they could check in on construction. Well, that will not be happening. Obviously, we're finished with Jackson Street, so there's commuting time, there's extra time associated with that. So that's kind of all makes up what they're asking. So they're asking $44,511. And they do have it broken out, for all their costs between MSA and Mead and Hunt. They have it broken down into design as well as construction. And after looking at it, a bulk of the costs seem to be construction costs. With that being said, it is a 90-10 split between the state and between the city. So our portion of that is very limited. And it's kind of another possibility. We can work with MSA and see if, when they put together their estimate, they're putting together a very conservative estimate, I would assume, on how much time they think it's going to take for construction, because there's some variability with that. So we can work with them to see if we can limit their time a little bit, save some costs there. But their amendment they're asking for is $44,511 for everything, and our cost associated with that would be 10% of that, so approximately $4,400. But with that being said, we wanted to take that to committee for approval to keep construction of the Grand Avenue project, which is slated for this fall, going, as well as design in the bidding documents, putting those together for the other two intersections for High Street and Chase Street, that would continue to go into this fall and this winter, so that next summer or next spring and summer, we could construct those two intersections as well.
Okay, I guess the bottom line here, I think, is just that, it's the 90-10 split is 4,400 of our money.
Correct. Yep, it'd be 10% of that cost.
Yeah. And unless, I guess, there's comments about it, I'd entertain a motion on doing this.
I'll make the motion to approve amendment number 3 to MSA service contract.
I'll second that. Any discussion by anybody? Seeing nothing, committee will vote. All in favor, respond by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it. Thank you. Item number 10, review the referral list. What was that?
So number 3 was brought to us, I don't know, maybe 6 months ago, maybe early 2023. But we had a couple truckers call in and say that, you know, the West Side Quick Trip is, they've closed off their parking area. I think they had a gravelled area north of their building, and they closed that off, and so they didn't have anywhere to park, and they kind of made it sound like it was a bigger problem, more than just they experienced, but a lot of truckers experience, and we're hoping to kind of maybe have the city involved with some sort of a project to provide parking for them somewhere in the city.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else on the list or comments? Oh, Dennis.
I was just gonna ask you on that number 3, do you have any idea of what might be out in the city that they could, park their trailers? I think that's what we're talking about, aren't we? Just the trailers, 'cause
Right. Yeah, they could not do extended parking on the street anywhere. That caused issues, but, yeah, they would need something off the street, and that's where, you know, I guess it gets a little bit tricky with that. It would be up to council to decide if they have something, in mind, or if they'd want to put money into it. But I do believe that community development is also working with a couple of these truckers on possible improvements, but I don't know where they're at with that.
okay, yeah, I don't think anybody wants to see them on the trail, you know, on the streets, but I was wondering if there was, you people had some idea of some big field or lot or whatever, but, okay, no, that's fine, thank you.
I guess on that topic, there was a period of time where there was some trucks parking on the YMCA property over there, but I noticed that, yeah, that's not happening anymore. Yep, thanks.
I will, I guess, further check on this in next month and see if there's anything in, if I find out something positive, to bring it back to the committee here, so. All right, that's okay. And then nothing else there. Item 11 is to set our next meeting date. I believe it'd be Thursday, October 5th at 5 o'clock, if that is okay with everybody. Okay, that's when our next meeting will be. And then with that, we're to item number 12. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. All in favor of the motion to adjourn, respond by aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, as it. We're adjourned at 5:57, I guess. Thank you.